Hiring that private tutor to sit down with you. Students will come to Gritty and they'll get access to a library of video tutorials for a tiny fraction of the price, hundreds of videos directed just for them and accessible in the way that they're used to on YouTube. So it's on their phone, on their desktop, any time of day. They can watch them over and over again. And if they don't find what they're looking for, they can send a request, and what we do is we aggregate all the requests to identify what issues students are really struggling with and what they're not struggling with, and the system automatically adapts to the real needs of students. We went through that program last year. They really fueled our beta at the UC system, so the UC Berkeley here, UCLA, and a number of the other University of California campuses in California. And we were able to get about 25,000 students using the system on a regular basis in that beta.
Son las típicas noticias que se escuchan aquí. La verdad que lo que se ve siempre, que todos los días siempre hay algún tipo de noticias de este tipo. Empresas que compran, empresas que venden, y aparte los números son siempre vertiginosos, y la verdad que es así. La verdad que es un mercado súper dinámico, muy eficiente. Startup en Silicon Valley, en general, lo que hace es encontrar las respuestas a estas 6 preguntas. Y estas 6 preguntas son las que normalmente tienen que encontrarse hasta que uno se encuentra en esta etapa. Una de 10 puede llegar a tener éxito, y después habrá una o dos que son break-even, y después el resto probablemente no funciona. Y entonces, en esta etapa, básicamente, lo que está invirtiendo el inversor es en el equipo que tiene la capacidad de hacer este proceso iterativo para encontrar el producto para el mercado al que se quiere llegar. Y bueno, seguramente habrán escuchado la palabra pivot, ¿no? El pivotear. Lo que significa es que cuando uno llega a un tope de iteraciones y se da cuenta que realmente no llega más, entonces ahí hay como una reubicación y la alineación de negocio hacia otra, y eso es lo que se llama un pivot. Y todo eso se financia en esta etapa. Y entonces a partir de acá ya es un modelo diferente, porque ahí se asume que ya se encontró el modelo de negocio y ahora solamente es una cuestión de replicarlo. Básicamente es sacar los productos como churros. cantidad de exalumnos, de alumni, un poco como hacen las empresas americanas, las universidades americanas, como para fomentar las actividades de apoyo entre ellos. Entonces, entre ellos no solamente aprenden, sino también se ayudan. Estos son las descargas de las top 25 apps en diferentes plataformas, y si vemos, 9 de las primeras son 2 empresas, Google y Facebook. Eso es lo que nos está diciendo. Y bueno, después está Snapchat, que justo acaba de anunciar esta semana pasada que van a salir a bolsa, van a hacer un IPO de 25 millones de valoración. Entonces, en realidad no estamos hablando acá de startups. Lo que quiero decir es que es un mercado sumamente saturado, y para mí la plataforma social, móvil, digamos, llegó a un plató en el cual realmente no podemos esperar realmente grandes evoluciones a nuevos futuros. Lo que quiero decir es, como emprendedor habría que enfocarse en otro tipo de cosas. El crecimiento seguramente no va a estar aquí. Digamos, ya lo vimos hace 15 años, digamos, yo participé de la .com y .past, como le llaman, y fue exactamente lo mismo. Al principio había como una explosión cámbrica de montones de websites y qué sé yo, y después, bueno, al fin y al cabo, la gente gravita siempre a 4 o 5 dominios que ellos conocen, y aquí pasa exactamente lo mismo. VR y AR. Estas son las tecnologías y las nuevas plataformas que, por lo menos en Gartner, podrían llegar a suceder en el tema de disrupción para las empresas. Y, digamos, para startups. Entonces, volviendo a tu pregunta si hay burbuja o no, el tema es que vemos que las oportunidades se reducen, pero por otra parte hubo un flujo muy grande de capitales. Digamos, acá sí vemos la cantidad de dinero invertido, digamos, sigue aumentando en cantidades, y en números absolutos de rondas de financiamiento empezó a caer. Y para este año, bueno, esto ya es a fin de año, continúa, obviamente no fue una caída así estrepitosa, pero bueno, estamos como por acá más o menos.
So they have, I'm not very familiarized with this actually. So they either have 2 or 3 batches of companies that go through each year. It might be just the spring and fall, I'm not sure. And so then they accept so many startups each batch. And then, as you can see from the little poster there, they provide housing. So that's at Draper University. So this is also where the ecosystem flows with one another. So they have housing at Draper University. They get to spend time. They'll fly in here. They have some international people who want to start a company, and so they'll get to live in San Mateo across the street at Draper University. They get working space, and they also get like a mini seed investment to start whatever idea or continue their business. And then at the end of the so many weeks that they're here, perhaps it's 8 or like 3 months, they'll also pitch in a VC day. Hulu came in, and then Netflix came in, or not Netflix, yeah, Hulu came in, and we hosted the company Hulu to go check out the virtual reality and augmented reality startups here.
What we do, why we are here, okay? That's why I'm going to try to explain to you this in 2 minutes. Spain Startup is the organizer of South Summit, which is the largest startup conference in Southern Europe. We gather startups, the main actors from the startup ecosystem, startups, investors, incubators, accelerators, and different enterprises who are betting for entrepreneurship encouragement. So that 5 years ago, Maria y Benjumea, which is our founder, grew up with this business. And then now we have turned into one of the most interesting and one of the most important conferences in Southern Europe. Apart from this, we organize different events around entrepreneurship encouragement and education programs for startups. We organize several with different companies, with different foundations, with different universities, and that brings here to San Francisco to know more about the startup ecosystem of Silicon Valley, which is the most important area for this world. So we want to meet every actor of the ecosystem, and we are, I guess, we are in one of the most important co-workings in the area, and we're more than happy to be here and very grateful for you to receive it and to host us in your house. So thank you very much.
The way I got involved in the world of entrepreneurship was through the entrepreneurship group at Stanford, which is called Basis. Every week we would bring in a founder of a company in Silicon Valley to come and talk about the realities of being a startup founder. And so the event actually started as a very casual, like let's all grab a beer together and just talk about the good part, but especially the bad part of being a startup founder. And so I was working with the MIT Technology Review, which has the Young Innovators Awards every year. And so I worked on basically identifying and celebrating, it was 35 people under the age of 35 in each country who were doing amazing work. I was at Spain Tech Center, so I was there up until the summer of last year. And then now I'm with the Intel Education Accelerator. Around 2011, Intel Education didn't exist. So there wasn't any group within Intel that focused purely on education, the education market. This past year, the education team started working with Intel Capital. So if you know, Intel Capital is the largest corporate venture capital firm in the world. We invest between $400 and $500 million every year and have a portfolio of around 400 companies actively. And so Intel Capital wanted to support the education team, and so actually joined together to form the accelerator. And so our accelerator program gives companies both access to all the education team resources, but also the money, like in the Intel Capital network. Here we are. This is just San Francisco and the Silicon Valley. We invest $100,000 or up to $100,000 in each company, and we run one program every year. But if you look just around the valley itself, you know, Y Combinator, which is one of the big accelerators, they've always had an education focus. 500 Startups has a strong education focus as well. CoLab, which is run by Zynga, if you know that gaming company that makes a lot of like Farmville and Words with Friends, like games for your cell phone. They wanted to support educational games for your mobile phone. And so like AT&T wants people to develop games that are education applications that are for mobile as well, because they benefit by having more people, like, you know, more apps on the market. These are the main parts of our program, and what I see is any program that work well. And I can see it at the university level. Like these are the key parts to consider when designing any sort of entrepreneurial program. The first time a student is coming into contact with, you know, the world of entrepreneurship, or the world of startups, then what are the key things that you need to help them continue to build their interest and build their expertise? So you bring people in who are successful entrepreneurs, and they just talk about the experience. And so, you know, you could bring in alumni who have founded companies, or bring in people from local communities that have founded companies. I think what's worked really well for the Basis group at Stanford is alumni come back in roles more as mentors to whoever's currently leading the organization. So for example, I'm not sure what the structure is with yours, but we have current students, so people studying at the university, who are leading each program that I showed you here. So students are the ones who are hosting the business plan competition. Maybe they're in the different classes, like in your case. Maybe you have students who are helping design or run the entrepreneurship classes. But what we do is we match those students with alumni who still want to be involved, and that's the thing is, you know, like if you have that strong community when they're studying, then afterwards they want to keep coming back. So the alumni program lets them, at the beginning of the year, we have a big, what we call our offsite, where all the current students and all the alumni go to like a half-day event, and we just like share advice. So talk about what's worked in the past, what hasn't, talk about what they want to do this year and how they maybe could do that. And then the alumni keep working with those groups throughout the whole year. We are looking for, like for our program, it's seed stage, like I mentioned before, which would basically be like, I think once you have your first product on the market, so like at this point you're testing out how you're going to be able to sell your product. So once you figure out how to sell it to at least a small group of initial customers, then you're a good fit for this program. When you're a startup founder, 100 people want to give you advice. Like, so many people want to give you advice, but it's really hard to make sense of all the conflicting messages you get. From our side, from the education team side, we continue doing alumni events where we'll invite them to conferences that Intel is at. So if we have, like, Intel is like a booth at a big education conference, like BET, which is a big conference in London, then we'll invite alumni back to present at that conference.
I'm going to introduce myself and my colleague Todd Morrill. We're going to talk with you a bit about the innovation ecosystem here at both Silicon Valley as well as UC Berkeley, and some specific tools that we use to teach in this space. As I said, I teach here at the business school. I also teach with Todd in the National Science Foundation I-Corps program, which we'll tell you more about. It's about rapid commercialization, mostly on technologies being developed inside universities.
My background is in healthcare primarily, so I have worked in the pharmaceutical industry and the biotechnology industry, both in big companies as well as starting companies through most of my career. But over the last several years, I have become increasingly involved in the I-Corps program that Whitney teaches in. And so I am the faculty director here at Berkeley for the program, which includes Stanford, UCSF, and Berkeley. And essentially we teach entrepreneurship, if you will, and innovation to professors primarily. So most of our students are actually professors of engineering and of medicine and of science and things like that. So today we're going to tell you a little bit about Berkeley itself and the history of Silicon Valley, and we're going to talk some more about I-Corps and really innovation itself, and then give you a chance to actually try a little bit of what we teach to the very beginning of what we teach for the I-Corps program.
The Silicon Valley space, because it's an interesting ecosystem, and people often visit here to understand what makes Silicon Valley work, why is it so unique, and also what could we take from here and build back in our home country. We have many different universities here. That's one of the assets, and you must appreciate this coming from an academic area. Berkeley is the oldest. Stanford is not much older. And then we have a number of smaller schools. Silicon Valley originally developed from defense spending. So the US government, the Department of Defense, originally set up things like Moffett Field, where today they have research centers, Tesla has space, Google has space. This is just next to Stanford and Facebook. But originally it was to park planes for World War II. And it was also a center of research for different technologies that we wanted for the war. So radios, microwave, radar. And some of the people that were involved in that research later went on to start companies, specifically what became semiconductor companies, and that's why this is called Silicon Valley. So Shockley actually later went on to win a Nobel Prize, and then some of his people left, some of his research team left, and joined Arthur Rock, who funded one of the first venture capital funds out here. So you have the academic piece, you have government-funded research, and now you have money. So these are some of the sort of key pieces. Then you have the network effect. So these people all knew each other somehow. They either were educated together, they worked together. This is called the traitorous Fairchild 8, because they later left with Gordon Moore and formed, do you know what company? No? Intel. Oh. This aspect of networks matter at the people level, and they matter at the company level. So from that just single Fairchild group to begin with, we got Intel, Kleiner Perkins, you might have heard of, one of the most famous venture capital companies. And these led to more and more companies, mainly in the semiconductor space, but over time building up Silicon Valley. We joke that this is like a mafia. So there are a few faces. This is an older picture from 2007, but that you might recognize. And you can see that these individuals, this PayPal mafia that made so much money, went on to form other companies. And these other companies have, for the most part, been quite successful. Some you may have heard of course, like YouTube. Some may be a little less familiar, like Kiva, which is a social investment site. Square.
There were several things going on at the same time. You had good universities, creating lots of talented people. You had money coming in, originally from the Army, Department of Defense, but the Army basically, funding some of the basic research. You had people who worked together and then split. So one of the underlying messages in here is that nothing lasts very long. So Whitney showed you a slide, I don't know if you could read it, it's called the Traitorous Eight. So this is the Traitorous Eight. So basically they were funded to start a company, and a few years later they all left and they went other places. And at the time in 1957 that was shocking, you didn't do that. Today it's absolutely normal. So anyway, the point is that you get this combination of university education, you get a combination of money, but really the key is getting the people who are willing to work together on the understanding it's not lifetime employment. So the NSF has built this program called the I-Corps. But basically there are a series of teaching nodes. We're one of them here. That's my day job, is running one of these teaching nodes. There are smaller sites which are not quite as important. And then we have teams scattered all over the United States going through this process to replicate innovation, to do it over and over and over again. When we do this in corporations, it's a little bit different. But the core concept is a professor, a postdoctoral student, usually, depends, and then somebody from outside. So two people who understand the technology and love it, and one person who doesn't, understands the market. The course is 8 weeks long. And essentially what they're asked to do is to go talk to their customers. When you go talk to your customers, you don't tell them what you're doing, you find out what they need first. That's the core concept of what we're doing. So that's the first tool. It's a lot of interviews. Teams that go through this have to do 15 interviews a week. Second piece is we use the business model canvas. This is a great tool, it's just a tool. It's a business plan in one page. So the concept is you go out and you talk to your customers, and you write things down in your business model canvas, but then you come back and you present it. And you say, this is what we learned, this is what our customers said, this is what we think we're going to do next, and we provide feedback. All right, so the third tool is a flipped classroom, where the work goes on outside the classroom. There are videos and there's books and stuff like that, but that happens independently of the class. The main purpose of the class is to get direct feedback from the instructors. Okay, so this program, we've been running this program now for 4 years. We've put about 1,000 teams through it. And in the end, in the business model canvas, the goal is to get these two boxes, the value proposition and the customer segment, to match, to get people to understand what the value is to a customer. Now look, this is tricky. It sounds easy, but it's tricky. If you don't know who your customer is, how do you know what the value is? If you don't know what the value is, how do you know if they're a customer? You gotta have both. It's a hard problem, and that's why we ask teams to go do lots of customer discovery.